Welcome to the January meeting of the ASE Dallas branch. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of our members and guests. Before we begin the main program, we want to first cover some branch announcements.
Hey teams, I'm NASA astronaut Ricky Arnold, and I hear you are planning to design a future lunar city and provide examples of how your city uses two moon resources to keep your residents safe and healthy. The moon, what an awesome destination with very unique engineering challenges. You guys are going to put the E in STEM.
So Neil Armstrong needs you to volunteer as a judge or a mentor.
Howdy everyone, my name is Samantha and I'm the Younger Member Chair as well as the Education and Outreach Chair.
Hi guys, I'm Nick Phillips. I am the Branch Director.
So today we're going to be hosting our first bridge program directly after today's meeting. The meeting is going to start at 1 p.m. and end at 2 p.m. Today's meeting topic is going to be the PE exam. To access the meeting, you can find the link on our website, which is dallasase.org. On our social medias, you can find us at ASE Dallas, and as well as on our monthly newsletters.
Thanks, Sam. So to give you guys an idea of what we'll be doing for our first session, we will be hosting 5 panelists who will have taken the PE exam and will be there to answer any questions that you may have on what you need to know for the exam, any kind of source material you may need, tips and tricks, all types of stuff you guys are going to know for the exam. On top of that, we're going to have a professional engineer come in and speak on all different types of references you may need for your exams, ways to organize your references, and just general tips and tricks for the exam. We really think that this will be very beneficial for all of you, and we hope to see every one of you there.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, like Nick said, we hope to see everyone there. Feel free to invite anyone that you think might be interested, and we'll see you guys today after the meeting. We have some volunteering opportunities coming up this month. In a few weeks, we have the DIZ STEM Expo Bridge Building Competition, which ASE is helping run. We're going to be helping test the students' bridges as well as interview students and judge the competition. So I really need help finding volunteers, so please consider volunteering and signing up. We also have iDream, which is held by the Richardson Chamber of Commerce. It's a one-day virtual career day for 6th graders. To sign up for both of these volunteering opportunities, visit our website, visit our newsletter, as well as our Instagrams, Twitter, all our social media accounts at ASE Dallas. I hope to see everyone volunteering, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Brad Russell, your Dallas Chapter ASE Scholarship Chair, and I wanted to give you an update on this year's scholarship, the GB Mann Scholarship. This is a scholarship awarded to high school senior students who attend school in the Dallas branch region, which includes Collin, Cook, Dallas, Denton, Ellis, Kaufman, Navarro, and Rockwall counties, and who will be attending an institution of higher learning in the 2021 fall semester in pursuit of a degree in civil engineering. The deadline for the scholarship application is 5 p.m. Friday, March 26th. You can find information about the scholarship, both the application form and the reference forms, on the Dallas ASE website, which is dallasase.org/branch_scholarships. At the bottom of the application form, you're giving a mailing address and an email address to send the completed forms. I wish everyone applying good luck, and I look forward to receiving a number of applications to review again this year. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Amanda Coif. I'm your ASCE Dallas Social Media Chair. Today I wanted to remind everyone of the best way to keep in touch with everything that's going on in the ASCE Dallas branch, and that's to follow us on our social media. Even though it is the new year, we're still a far way away from being able to meet in person again, and that means most of our events will be occurring virtually. By following us on any of our 4 social media accounts, you can make sure that you never miss out on a virtual event, including our monthly meetings and technical seminars, volunteer opportunities, and socials, all of which are posted to our social media accounts. Also, since we started donating a portion of the proceeds from each meeting to a rotating charity, we'll be posting a poll on our social media each month to get your input on where you'd like the branch to donate a portion of the meeting proceeds to. So follow us to make sure your opinion is heard and you stay up to date on all the chapter events. You can follow us at ASCE Dallas on Twitter and Instagram, and at ASCE Dallas Branch on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Hi, this is Chad Ostrander. As this year's fundraising chair, I am proud to announce the sponsorship opportunities for 2021. Our virtual meeting sponsorships this year will include a 2 to 3 minute video by the sponsor company. This can be a produced marketing video if you have one available, or any other form of company promotion. Our virtual meetings during 2020 have consistently received over around 500 views per month, and they will stay up on our YouTube channel indefinitely. If your company is interested in sponsoring a meeting or the 2021 Scholarship Golf Tournament, please contact me at fundraising@dallasasc.org or visit us online at dallasasc.org and navigate to become a sponsor. And thank you to our January meeting sponsor, LA Feast Partners.
As a reminder, the ASC Dallas branch virtual meetings will continue to be free to watch online via our YouTube channel. However, we are charging a $10 fee for the PDA certificates. The proceeds from these PDA certificate sales will be split evenly between the ASC Dallas GB Man Scholarship and a rotating charity or nonprofit. This month, we will be donating to the Dallas ISD STEM department, which was selected by our Dallas branch members via an online vote. Last month, the Dallas branch donated $700 each to the GB Man Scholarship Fund and to the North Texas Food Bank. Thank you to all our members for your generosity and support. You can visit our branch website at www.dallasasce.org or click the link in the video description below to pay for and obtain your PDA certificate. The PDA certificates will be available for purchase at the end of the month. Please be on the lookout in your email inbox for your certificate towards the end of January. We will now get started with the main meeting presentation. If you have any comments or questions during the presentation, you can type them into the chat box on the right of the video. These questions will be collected and sent to our speaker, and our answers will be distributed later on. To introduce our main speaker, I will now pass it off to our ASC Dallas Branch Programs Director, Carlos Balderrama.
Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome to 2021. To start off this year, we have a great presentation for y'all from Kathleen Jackson with the Texas Water Development Board. Kathleen has a diverse background, which includes developing and implementing water management strategies for Southeast Texas. Kathleen was appointed to the Texas Water Development Board by Governor Greg Abbott on March 2017, after being appointed to the same position by Governor Rick Perry on March 2014. Kathleen received a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from North Carolina State University, and as a professional engineer served as a public affairs manager for one of the world's largest petroleum and petrochemical producers. Kathleen is a board member and past president of the Lamar Institute of Technologies Foundation, a sustaining member of the Junior League of Beaumont, a board member of the Texas Farm Bureau, and past president of the American Cancer Society of North Jefferson County. She is also a past board member of the Junior Achievement of the Golden Triangle. Kathleen has 3 children, 6th-generation Texans that all live and work in this great state of ours, and it also has 3 grandchildren. I'll now pass it on to Kathleen Jackson with the Texas Water Development Board for an update on Texas water and flood planning.
Well, hello, everyone. It is really an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be able to have the opportunity to kind of share what's going on across our state with the powerful leadership with the Dallas ASCE group. I can't thank you enough for all the work that you've done in promoting operational integrity and moving forward with infrastructure projects. I mean, in Texas, it's a bottom-up process. Nobody tells Texans what to do. So you can have the money and you can have the technology, but it's really up to that local leadership to take the bull by the horns and move projects forward. So really pleased today to be able to update you on kind of what's going on and the work that the board is supporting for infrastructure development, both on water and wastewater, as well as the exciting new initiative that we have with putting forth the first ever state flood plan, as well as funding that we were providing from the Texas legislature to kind of kickstart that process. To kind of start things off in the next slide, to tell you a little bit about who the Texas Water Development Board is. We were created after the drought of the 50s when communities and leadership across Texas came together and said, we will never, ever, ever let this happen again. We will never let Texas run out of water. So they formed the Texas Water Development Board. And I tell folks that we basically have, in my mind, kind of 3 functions. First of all, as the engineer on the board, I talk about us being the data repository for all water data for Texas. So we know that the better the data, the better the science, the better the science, the better the policy. So important that we have good data that we can do for planning and helping communities to move forward with projects that are needed to make sure we have a secure water future. Secondly, we are a bank. We have money to loan right here at home. You won't get a better interest rate anywhere than the Water Development Board. And we've done a tremendous amount in working with local communities to make water infrastructure, to make wastewater infrastructure, and now flood affordable for communities across the state. And then lastly, we are a technical resource. Our folks have seen a lot. We cannot engineer the project for you, but we can work and give you ideas and put you in touch with people who've had have had similar type of issues to deal with. And for me, what is it all about? It's about making sure that our children, and these are our children and our children's children have the water that they need for the future. Next. So we know that Texas is in perpetual drought. Punctuated by times of flood. And so in this, you can see how quickly things can change. In May of 2010, there were, very few areas where it was mostly dry across the state. And then just a short year later, in May of 2011, the state was in, every part of the state was in some stage of drought. And then just a very few short months later, for many communities across the state, 2011 became their drought of record. So things can change very quickly. And so it's incumbent on the Water Development Board to help communities and leadership to plan to make sure that we have water during times of drought. The other thing that we know is that people are moving to Texas every day. Depending on who you talk to, it's anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 people, and nobody's bringing any water with them. So how do we meet those challenges? How do we make sure that we have provided for communities in times of drought and be prepared for the growth that is happening across our state? And you can see we have a number of different strategies that our regional water planning groups and as a state rely on in terms of promoting resiliency. I put at the very top of the list conservation. Back in my days of working in industry, if as an engineer I would go to the corporation and say, I want to put in a new unit so that we can either increase our capacity or have a new product. The very first question they would ask is, tell me how efficiently you're using the resources you already have. And that's what conservation is. It's about efficiency, and it's about utilizing the resource that we already have. And oftentimes, it's the most cost-effective new water supply. So conservation is a water supply. Reuse, we're seeing it across the state. Communities taking advantage of investing and reusing their water to kind of stretch their existing water supplies. Theoretically, we know that there is not one more water molecule in the world today than when God created the earth, and it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that we are good stewards and then return the water back so it can be used again and again. Brackish groundwater desal across the state. My late husband was a rice farmer, and he said, Kathleen, there's an ocean of water under Texas. It's just not all fresh. And so communities across the state are putting in facilities, utilizing the resources of the board to desalinate brackish groundwater. Seawater desal, I think every presentation that I do, whether it is a small group or it's a group of 500, when there's a time for the Q&A, somebody raises their hand and say, tell us where we are on seawater desal. And we're very fortunate in that we have, through the SWIFT program, resources allocated, and the City of Corpus Christi is moving forward with the planning and a collaborative effort with industry, and is moving forward with the planning and design and eventually the construction of a seawater desal plant. Of course, we know that there's an unlimited supply of water. My kids tell me, say, Mom, you are so old that you remember the first calculator. And I do. I remember it. It was a Hewlett-Packard, and it cost $500, which was an entire semester's tuition to North Carolina State. And I remember, one of the students in our class got one, and I asked him, I said, how can you afford to make that investment? And he says, Kathleen, because it makes me so much more competitive. And of course, that's what seawater desal does. It makes us so much more competitive. And of course, we know the end of the story. That calculator that was $500, an entire semester's tuition at North Carolina State, today people are giving away. So the technology is going to catch up with it as we get more and more of the resources out there and people engaged in that type of technology. We're going to see, I think, strides and more seawater desal as being, again, one of the strategies to help us to promote resiliency across the state. Aquifer storage and recovery, we know the biggest challenge associated with storing water in reservoirs is the evaporative losses. Storing it underground enables you to basically bank it until you need it, and it reduces the losses associated with evaporation. And of course, the two mainstays, aquifers, and of course, surface water reservoirs. A big part of what Texas does, and what I'm very proud of, and I think we are, a shining star within the nation, is the way that we do planning. Again, it's a bottom-up process. We have 16 regional water planning groups across the state. They are made up of volunteers that come together. They represent agriculture, they represent industry, big cities, small communities, and they say, what do we have today? What do we need for the future? And what are those strategies or projects that will get us there? We take the 16 regional water plans, we put them together, and that becomes the state water plan. Very unique in Texas that it's based on science and data, a very regimented process facilitated by consultants that the regional water planning groups hire. They go through a very prescriptive planning process with delivery and evaluation of data to develop those strategies and projects. And then we're very fortunate that the legislature had the insight to invest in moving state water plan projects forward by creating the State Water Implementation Fund of Texas. And to date, we have implemented nearly $9 billion worth of commitments to move forward and to create, if you will, the resources that were needed to move planning into projects. So Texas, again, is unique in that we do planning, we tie it to financing, and we base it on good science and good data. Just wanted to take you on a little, very quick trip across Texas and kind of see the successes of the 16 regional water planning groups and some of the projects that they are moving forward and how they're turning their planning into projects. Next, in Regional Water Planning Group A, this is the City of Amarillo, and tremendous dependence on the Lake Meredith, and of course during the drought, that water supply dwindled to basically zero. So fortunate that they had invested in the Potter County well field, worked with the board to develop this resource, providing 20 miles of collection lines, a pump station, 18 miles of transmission line, and groundwater to city residents through about 70,000 connections. The city of Booker is located so close to the Oklahoma border. We're standing here kind of in front of their little welcome sign, and you can literally look off in the distance and see Oklahoma, a small community, again, that utilized the resources of the board through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund to do water system improvements. Next is Regional Water Planning Group B. Again, Wichita Falls, probably the poster child for reuse. During the drought of 2011, they were challenged by Lake Arrowhead was down to like 16%. They were very fortunate in that they had a reverse osmosis facility that had been treating the salty water from the Red River. They were able to retool it, take their wastewater, put it back into the front end of their water supply and do a direct potable reuse project. And then later on down the road, turn that into an indirect potable reuse project by sending the water back to Lake Arrowhead, using that as an environmental buffer and reusing that water, and again creating a water supply for them. They received a commendation from the EPA for their efforts, and again one of the first major reuse projects, direct potable reuse, and then later indirect potable reuse projects in the nation. So again, Texas taking the lead, and it all started again with the work and the effort of the leadership within the Regional Water Planning Group. In Regional Water Planning Group C, and I'm sure this is your favorite, the Integrated Pipeline Project. We're proud as the Water Development Board to be able to partner with Tarrant Regional and the City of Dallas to finance this 150-mile long pipeline that's meeting the water supply needs of 1.5 million Texans. As an engineer, it's a dream project. It features a 108-inch diameter pipe, and what I'm told is the world's largest gate valve. And so there's a picture of it here. It's 45 feet tall. The part that is above the ground is 2 stories tall. It's 15 feet wide, and it weighs 110 tons. A huge, massive project, again, to move water to where it's needed. The North Texas Municipal Water District, the first major reservoir in 30 years, again, started with looking at, how efficiently were they using water, putting in the John Bunker sands, taking water and moving it back to Lake Lavon, 29 miles, creating that efficient use of water, answering that question first off, are you using water efficiently before you go develop new water supplies through a new reservoir? Of course, the answer was yes. And tremendous project moving forward that's going to meet the needs of Regional Water Planning Group C for years to come. Moving on to Region Planning Group D. This is the River Bend Water Resources Group, a regional project that came together, utilized the resources of the board through what we call defund, and again, regional facilities that provide and help small communities with both water and wastewater water facilities. Next is Regional Water Planning Group E. This is the City of Marfa, a small community utilizing the resources of the SWIFT program to put in a new water well. Next, Regional Water Planning Group F. The example here, the City of Colorado City, utilizing wastewater treatment plant improvements, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund to, again, promote operational integrity and upgrade their wastewater treatment facilities. Next is Regional Water Planning Group G, and the City of Abilene, recognizing that, an important part of water conservation, if it's important enough to be concerned about it, it's important enough to measure it, and investing in water meter replacement, using the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, getting a great rate, and again, providing that data and information not only to the utility, but to the user so that they can more efficiently utilize a very precious water supply in that area. Next, Regional Water Planning Group H and the Luce Bayou Project. What is today the largest water infrastructure project ongoing in the nation, taking water from the Trinity, moving it to Lake Houston and building out a massive water treatment plant that will provide the needs for the city of Houston, about 25% of the total population of Texas for years to come. So a great project, a great success story, a regional initiative. Again, just the type of projects that the SWIFT, which is, they've utilized nearly $5 billion of SWIFT funding to make this project a reality, and again, be able to meet future water needs for Harris and Fort Bend counties. Next is Regional Water Group I in East Texas. This is the city of Kirbyville. When I visited, the mayor kind of took me around in his car and showed me the challenges that they had. He said, we want to make the investment. We're willing to put forth, the effort and what's taken to upgrade. We know we have challenges. We know we just need a little help. We're willing to invest in ourselves, and we were able to work with them, and through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, do systems to their potable water treatment system as well as upgrades to their wastewater treatment plant. And this is one of their operators. So again, I think a tribute to these small communities is the great local engineers that they have that work with them, that, get the call in the middle of the night, respond to the emergency, get out there and help these facilities to continue to operate and to do the upgrades that they need. Next is Regional Water Planning Group J, the City of Del Rio, a water line replacement project, and then wastewater treatment plant improvements, projects that, again, were part of their regional water plan, and this is their Regional Water Planning Group. Next, Regional Water Planning Group K, meet Lynette Franca, who is with the New Ulm Water Supply Corporation. When I went to meet with Lynette, I was driving around and kind of having a problem finding the office. And finally, I kind of pulled into this driveway and I called her and I said, Lynette, I can't find the office. She said, Kathleen, you're sitting in my driveway. Her office was in her home. We went inside. She pointed to a wall phone, one of those the old type phone that still had the cord on it. And she said, I used that phone and I worked with the board in Austin to fill out our application. So if Lynette Franca can utilize a telephone that is connected to the wall to work with the board to fill out an application, I kind of feel like anybody can work with the board and come forth and utilize the resources of the board. And again, they used it to install automatic meters and to put in a new ground storage tank. Next, Regional Water Planning Group L, of course, SAWS, the San Antonio Water System, over the years, 50 projects, including underground aquifer storage and recovery, a desal facility, groundwater desal facility. The Riverwalk is reused water. I mean, a great example of a community utilizing and collaborating in all different types of water supplies, putting them all together for the benefit of the community. Next, Regional Water Planning Group M, the Hidalgo County Irrigation District number 1, a great example of utilizing the resources of the SWIFT fund to line irrigation canals, and then also United Irrigation District utilized the funding to do an off-channel storage facility. Next, Regional Water Planning Group N, and our seawater desal facility that the City of Corpus Christi, in partnership with industry, is moving forward, utilizing the resources of the SWIFT fund and building a desal plant to be located on the Inner Harbor Ship Channel. Next is Regional Water Planning Group O, the City of Lubbock. A lot of folks don't know you can use the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for drainage projects, and that's exactly what they did. And again, enhanced drainage within the City of Lubbock by utilizing the resources of the board. Next is Regional Water Planning Group P, This is a picture of LCRA's Arbuckle off-channel reservoir. And I think this is a strategy you're going to see more and more of when downstream users, agriculture needs water, they make a call for the water, and sometimes it takes 5 to 7 days to get there. Well, in the meantime, if it rains or the water is not needed, it just kind of goes on to the ocean. By having an off-channel reservoir, you're able to capture that water, and it makes the overall system much more efficient. And in this particular case, this is real water. Their farm yield is expected to increase from 600,000 acre feet a year to 690,000 acre feet a year. So great work by Region P and LCRA and working with the community and putting in an off-channel reservoir that benefits both upstream and downstream users. Next, this will give you kind of like, if you will, kind of a little summary of an EQIP program update to so far. We just reached a landmark. We have committed over $30 billion in loans and grants since the inception of the board in 1957. The map here kind of shows you where the investments are. Nearly half of the $30 billion has been committed since 2013. $1.3 billion has been committed to loans and grants in the last 10 years to rural communities, to rural entities with populations less than 10,000 people. And again, I think it's a testament to the leadership in communities across the state that are utilizing the resources of the board, utilizing the local engineers to turn planning into projects and to, again, promote operational integrity. So the board continues to help communities through planning and also through financing, again, to turn planning into projects and to make sure that Texans will have the water that they need for years to come. Next, the board was very, very honored and to have been asked by the Texas legislature to do the first ever state flood plan. And also, I think in their wisdom, understood that it would take a while for the state flood plan to be developed, and there was a need to move forward and to start doing local planning and mitigation very quickly. And so they provided funding through the Flood Infrastructure Fund. This is an unprecedented effort that, again, provides and combines and integrates mapping, planning, and mitigation for the first time ever. So if it sounds and looks a little bit like regional water planning, it is, again, based on good science and good data, and recognizing that ultimately we want to tie the financing back to the planning effort. The board just recently approved about $6.4 million in financial assistance for the first ever projects to be funded through the FIF, those that will receive federal matching grant matching funds, and then also for early warning systems. So more to come. We've committed right at $770 million available for projects, of which 30% is allocated to grants, and the remaining 7% is allocated for 0% interest loans. Next, and of course the other part of this is planning. And in the Senate Bill 8 specifies that the planning should be done by river basin. And I think what we recognized is that, we can't do flood mitigation and flood planning like we did in the past. We can't wait for an area to flood and then kind of ask what happened and go back and try to mitigate it to, the previous conditions. We've got to be thinking ahead. We've got to be thinking about, what is happening in terms of growth, what's happening in terms of, change in risk. We need to be able to evaluate that risk. We need to have very detailed information of which local communities can utilize those and make those decisions. And that information needs to be made available as tools for the engineering community to work in partnership with local leadership to determine, okay, what level of risk do we want to mitigate to? And of course, the very starting part of that is through regional flood planning. We designated 15 regional flood planning groups. The board was charged with standing up those first flood planning members. We received over 600 applications and to fill about 180 slots. Throughout the process of doing the regional flood planning, of writing the rules, of putting together the rules for the fifth, ASCE was very engaged, very involved, provided great feedback, and will, in my mind, continue to be a resource as we move forward. This is not, this is an evolving process. We'll continue to seek out and need stakeholder input, feedback from, folks who have boots on the ground to see how things are going and how we need to kind of tweak it as we moving forward. So kind of one of the things that we recognized was that we needed to move and work forward collaboratively. This is the Trinity Regional Flood Planning Group. The local sponsor is the Trinity River Authority. And just kind of to look at it by the numbers, we have 15 flood planning regions, which will mean 15 regional flood plans. 19.5 million has been allocated amongst the 15 regional flood planning groups for them to be able to hire technical consultants. The sponsors, the contract execution is anticipated by March of 2020. So 180 voting members, 159 voting members, and 1 state flood plan. So what will they be doing? Their primary task will be to basically perform this 3-step analysis, flood hazard analysis that determine the location, the magnitude, and the frequency of flooding, flood exposure analysis to identify who and what might be harmed within the region, and then vulnerability analysis to identify vulnerabilities of communities and critical facilities. This is a major milestone for Texas, and it's just the beginning. We need to be able to protect ourselves for a flood event, to be able to protect property and human life. Next shows the timeline and what we anticipate, and I'll just point out that the contract execution with the regional flood planning groups is anticipated in the February-March timeframe, with the sponsors soliciting technical consultants in early 2021. The better the data, the better the science, the better the science, the better the policy. And I think, to me, one of the most exciting things, and this is in the next slide, is the resources that the board received to support the flood planning process. About half of that will be used to execute something called base level engineering. And so base level engineering is basically has 3 primary components. It's figuring out the shape of the bowl, which is LIDAR. It's how much water is going into the bowl, the hydrology, and then how the water is going to move once it gets in the bowl, which is the hydraulics. And of course, the end result is base level engineering. BLE is the foundation on which all other mapping activities are based. And we intend to have updated BLEs statewide within the next 5 years, and then recognizing that this needs to be an evolving process, continue to update them on a 5-year cycle going forward. So just taking a quick look at LIDAR, and to me this is extremely interesting. It's believed to be the most important data set to drive our science-based approach. And kind of how it works is hundreds of thousands of laser pulses are sent out per second near infrared range. The light pulses strike the ground and are reflected back. And a sensor on the plane then captures the reflections, and then the distance is calculated based on how much time it takes the pulses to return. So the outcome is elevation data that's very accurate on a point-by-point locating for all 3 dimensions. And of course, TNRIS, which is a part of the Texas Water Development Board, acquires the LIDAR data through partnerships with other federal and state agencies, with FEMA contributing a large amount of the funding towards that effort. Next, this will give you an idea of the timing. We're very pleased to announce that we've recently just acquired 100% of the state for full coverage, which is a huge step forward. The areas in green on the map are the counties that have LIDAR available for download on the TNRIS website, which is most of Texas. And the areas in the blue of the map are the counties which have newly acquired LIDAR, and the LIDAR is currently in production. Next, to kind of take a look at where we are on our BLE status. Of the 208 HUC 8 watersheds in Texas, 17 are currently undergoing are currently under contract to be mapped using state funds, with an additional 25 that are slated to go under contract in fiscal year 2021. In total, 30 Huck 8 watersheds have been mapped to date through combined board and FEMA efforts. So mapping of the full state through this partnership is expected to be completed by 2024. Wouldn't it be great if there was a way that we could access this data? And the answer is there is. The LIDAR base input data set we are developing, which is a newer non-regulatory product, provides the maps, the models, the GIS data, and reports freely and available for download on this website. So this is very much a partnership between FEMA, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Geologic Survey, and the National Weather Service. So you can actually go to the base floodplain elevation viewer. It's called Inform. You can manipulate the data and utilize their software, or you can download it. Next, I'd like to, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, this, I think, really demonstrates the value of base level engineering. This example is near Sweetwater. So the map at the left is the 1960 USGS TOCO map, and this would be the old method, which would be used in a project area to understand the lay of the land, and it would be based off of, if you will, 10-foot or worse contours. With the LIDAR technology, we have more detailed topography resolution down to 2 foot, which is the map on the right. So the bottom line is more detailed, more accurate elevation data means better resolution and can help you locate an optimal alignment, better assess permitting needs, better estimate construction costs, and ultimately better determine your flood risk or work on other projects through base level engineering. If we look at kind of where we are with the FEMA flood insurance rate maps or the firms, only half of the state has like no maps at all or paper maps that are 10 to 15 years old. 20% have D firms, which are greater than 10 years old. Another 20% are 5 to 9 years old, and only 10% of the state have new maps. So increased mapping, which is what we heard through talking to stakeholders and also through ASCE, through this process is a huge need to be able to move forward and to have better data and better information. In the next slide, again, this talks about planning, more accurate data, more mapping. This example is also near Sweetwater, and here we're showing the data, using it to build, if you will, kind of a hypothetical pipeline. If you overlay the floodplain data, it can show you differences as well. The current FEMA data on the left shows some flood risk, but it's mostly off the map. This is because the FEMA flood maps don't cover 100% of Texas, and much of what they do cover is based on approximate data. It used to be you'd have to request a PDF of the paper model in a library, scan it if it's even available, and then manually input it into your GIS software. But now, with the more detailed terrain information, it's more accurate, it's more user-friendly, allowing more accurate and precise mapping of floodplains and risk information. You can literally click on a point to get the elevation of water to best determine, in this case, the path of your pipeline. So anywhere BLEs are available, models are available, you can download and integrate with your software to scope elevation and determine flood risk. The next example is, it kind of demonstrates there's the flexibility to utilize this data. In addition to planning, we can also use it for emergency management. So the image on the left represents, if you will, a digital firm. So out of the 254 counties, about half have D firms, the other half have paper firms or no maps at all, and therefore no risk identification. The image on the left shows an area near Seguin with approximate flood risk data. It appears that there's more flood risk south and below the road because of the water floodplain, and we all know that water doesn't flow to an exact point as is indicated. The image on the right shows base level engineering data, which uses the LIDAR data and shows a completely different story. The flood risk here is now revealed based on better information to be more significant north and above the road and less than previously assumed south, but it shows the road is clear. Again, you can download the data, integrate it into your software, and emergency management can use the data to determine that this road could now be used as an evacuation route, whereas before it showed it to be inaccessible. The two purple shades show both the 1% and the 0.2% annual change, which is not available on many of the FEMA maps. In the next slide, if the three pillars of our mapping, planning, and now mitigation, protecting people and property, we've shown the BLE data to be able to build a theoretical pipeline for emergency management, but it also can be used now by a developer. The image on the left shows the flood risk data from the FEMA flood insurance map, or the FIRMS, and this is near Clear Spring in Guadalupe County. The base level engineering on the right shows a whole different flood risk area from a nearby spring that was not mapped previously at all. Our staff went to Guadalupe County to meet with the floodplain administrator, and they validated the accuracy of the data and that the area on the right did indeed flood. So the new BLE data it provides additional information to determine potential flood risk and is a significant improvement in quality. It's non-regulatory. It can serve as a precursor to detailed FEMA studies and could be adopted locally as a FEMA map update. So really excited about the data and the information, again, that are intended to be tools that can be used by the engineering community, by the local community, again, to kind of identify the risk and to move forward and kind of answer those questions to what level of risk do we want to mitigate to plan, and then to move forward and to get projects moving forward. Next, just wanted to give you a quick update on something that is dear to my heart and that the ASCE has been a huge and tremendous supporter of, and that is asset management. What we kind of saw was that, you know, the big cities have tremendous resource to be able to, through their own, through their consultants, through their own engineering staff, to do asset management, recognizing that that was something that is important for them to be successful. Oftentimes small communities don't have that. So the board put together a pilot program recognizing that asset management pays off. So important to identify what those risks are, take advantage of the low interest rate, build it with today's dollars, and then promote that overall reliability and operational integrity, recognizing that it's not just the facilities, but it's also your operating procedures, and it's knowing oftentimes just where your facilities are and having a map and an inventory of what those are. In the next slide, this is the city of Blanco, who was one of the communities that worked with us on the pilot study. A very successful team, the city of Elkhart, and then also Three Rivers, also the city of Holland, the city of Pittsburgh, and then the town of Anthony. Very, very pleased of the outcomes of these pilot studies. We've shared this with EPA, and they were very excited about this program. We've been extremely supported through ASCE. You provided input along the way, as well as phenomenal resources through the consulting engineers that worked with each of these communities. Moving forward, we'll continue to have a program. We've devoted $1 million in the clean water and the drinking water state revolving funds to provide up to $75,000 for small communities to do asset management plans. And then also, what we heard from the engineering community was that, we need to provide an incentive, incentivize, communities that are taking that extra step, that are investing in asset management. So for communities that have invested in asset management, they meet the criteria of the board's asset management program. There is 0% interest financing up to $500,000 available for projects that they want to move forward that are in their asset management plan. So very pleased to be able to announce that and to have that for as part of our intended use plans going forward for the board. If, stay in touch. There's lots of exciting things that are ongoing. Very excited about the continued work in our integrated flood program, the role that the engineering community has taken in the development and will continue to take as we move forward and we execute it and we continue to refine the program. It's, in my mind, it's about planning, it's about getting the strategies together, it's about working together collaboratively, it's about utilizing the resources and make sure that we do the kind of projects that are based on good science and good data, and that we are, planning for the future. Kind of in closing, just wanted to thank y'all for the continued partnership. In the next slide, this was at the ASCE CECon, one of my absolute favorite events, and here with some of my absolute favorite people, particularly Nancy, who has been a great friend going, years and years back to our Beaumont days, and was at events where my daughter was recognized and has been such a tremendous supporter of the engineering community. Just wanted to thank you for your leadership. You are trusted advisors. When people call in the middle of the night, you're there trying to get the system back up and running. I would just encourage you to maybe, have that little sit down time with the people that you work with, encourage them to take advantage of the resources of the board, kind of ask that question, what can we invest in? How can we take advantage of these low interest rate? Build it out with today's dollars, realize those benefits that we're going to get, which is not just the cost of the facilities, but it's capturing those water savings and those operational integrity benefits right now. Less calls in the middle of the night. So it's an absolute honor and a privilege to be your representative, to serve as the engineering slot on the Texas Water Development Board. The last slide is kind of a little greetings from our other two board members. Peter Lake, who is our chairman, serves in the finance slot. Brooke Pop, who has amazing energy, serves in the legal and business slot, came from the comptroller's office. So, a great team at the board. I continue to every day to be to just be amazed at the talent, at the energy, and at the commitment that the staff has. We are not regulatory. We are here to serve you. So please, anything and everything that we can do, please just let us know. Please call me personally. We are here to serve you. I can't thank ASCE enough. I commend the Dallas section for the work that you've done in helping that community to plan out their infrastructure, to invest, and to make sure that, as a big and important, viable part of Texas, that we're prepared, and that, our children and our children's children will have the water and the quality of life that we want for them. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your commitment. And again, it's an absolute honor and a privilege to continue to serve as the engineering member on the Texas Water Development Board.
Hey, Kathleen, thank you so much for your presentation. It was pretty obvious from the first pictures you've shown that you've traveled all over the state, and so I want to thank you for, helping us and traveling around the state to help solve the challenges that we face here in Texas. And also, as someone that used the TNRIS data as recent as last week, thank you for giving us all that information, because I don't know what we would do without it. So my question is, Kathleen, are there any items that the ASE members could help the Texas Water Development Board with in the upcoming legislative session?
Well, I would say just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, your input is so important because you're actually there. You are boots on the ground. You see it every day. And to the extent that you can share, I think, both sides of the story. I understand that it's important to say that we need more, that infrastructure isn't maybe exactly where it needs to be, and we need to continue to invest. But I think it's also important to share those success stories. And, as the Water Development Board, we can kind of calculate what the the savings are in financing, but the real benefit and the real savings are what you see in terms of, the avoided maintenance, the ability to have the infrastructure available when a new business wants to come into town and to be established there, and for families to continue to want to come to your community and to and basically to come to Texas. So I think, anything that the engineering community can continue to do to basically say, hey, continue on. You're making a difference. The dollars that you're investing, the effort that you're putting forth in water infrastructure, in wastewater, and now in flood is so important. These are some of our success stories, some of the things that we see. And by the way, we still got a ways to go, and so we need to continue to have the support of communities across Texas, and of course, you'll always have the support of the Water Development Board.
Kathleen, thank you for coming to speak to us today. And I just had a question on the flood zones. The ones that you're doing through the BLE data, is that going to eventually be submitted through FEMA and be reflected on all the firm maps?
Well, the BLE information, and I think that's a great point, is that it is complementary to the firm process. So the idea is to have that information available to local communities earlier in the process. And also to have data and information that's just based on science and data. And so it will be available as tools that the engineering community and local communities can use very early in the process. And it will, and as it's developed, and again, it's going to take a while to get all of Texas with the BLE data actually available, but you'll be able to go out to the website and actually be able to download it and utilize the modeling, utilize the LIDAR data, and there's no charge for it.
Thank you. I've used some of the BLE data, and it's very helpful for especially areas in rural Texas that don't have a whole lot of information.
Well, thanks for the feedback. And I would just say, as you utilize it, and one things that the engineering community could help us with is just give us that feedback. I mean, TNWIS would love to hear from you. And, we're all about continuous improvement. And so, we love the praise, but we also, appreciate anything that might be, a little bit of a glitch or a way that you see that maybe we could present it a little bit differently. So it's a learning process, and we just appreciate any help you can give us. And of course, we've kind of been reaching out to ASCE since the very onset of this, and you've served as, phenomenal technical advisors and really just taken the bull by the horns and moved forward and been a tremendous technical resource. So I guess this is a little bit of an ask if you can, I know we've developed it, we're marching forward, we're executing, but I think it's important that you continue to kind of help us and provide that feedback. So thank you.
Kathleen, we want to thank you for being willing to speak to us today. We always appreciate hearing updates from you, and we look forward to when we can have you come back and speak to us in person. If you have any additional questions you'd like to ask Kathleen, please put those in the comment section below. Those will be collected and emailed to Kathleen for her responses later. Remember, if you would like a PDH for today's presentation, please visit our website at www.dallasasce.org or click the link in the video description below. This link will remain active until the end of the month. Finally, I will mention our tech sessions that we have this month. I'm going to redo that last part. Okay. Finally, I want to mention our technical sessions that we have for the month. The EWRI Institute has Glenn Klingenpeel of the Trinity River Authority giving a presentation on flooding the Trinity River and the Region 3 Flood Planning Group. Next month's meeting is scheduled for February 8th and will be a virtual meeting that will be broadcast via our ASC Dallas Branch YouTube channel. We will have Travis Campbell with TxDOT to speak about I-345. Thank you for attending the virtual Dallas Branch meeting, and I hope you have a great week. With that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.